it's weird. Speaking of trades, Aaron Civale yesterday traded to the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't want to screw this guy's name up. Kyle Manzardo.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of his last name. So this is the trade. Now, unlike a lot of people in the media, I'm not going to be a phony. I had never heard of Kyle Manzardo.
I've actually followed him because I'm in that psychotic fantasy baseball league. We do minors.
I follow the minor leagues to some degree.
That's crazy.
But for whatever reason, he wasn't a guy on my radar.
Oh, no. I paid attention to him for.
Now, the book on him, he was not having a good year at AAA.
The peripheral numbers, yes. The standard historic numbers or the traditional. Yeah. Traditional numbers were not good.
Now, he's a hitter, right? He's a
first baseman.
He's first. He might be just a DH.
Left-handed hitting. He's probably an upgrade over Naylor at first, but
he's
not by much.
He's another lefty.
Yes.
He's another lefty. I heard Jonathan Mayo on this morning saying, "Hey, I think the guy's going to be a guy who could hit 300 and hit 25 home runs." Great. Remember, he's a prospect.
Right.
There's no such thing as a guarantee.
That's right.
According to MLB.com, he's the 37th best prospect in Major League Baseball. There's been plenty of other 37th best prospects that have sucked in the majors.
Yes.
And there's a chance this guy's going to be great. Time to tell. The bottom line on this trade is two things. Number one, the Guardians are sellers. Don't conflate it any other way. Now, does it mean the season's over? Of course it doesn't mean the season's over. Nothing has changed in the fact that this division sucks.
I mean, what time's the deadline?
6 p.m.
Okay, so they still have 6.5 hours. They could make a buy move. They could come back and make a buy move.
But
this was a sell move.
This was a complete sell move.
Yes.
But does it decrease their chances of making the playoffs? Slightly. But they still could do it because the division's still freaking awful.
Yes.
They're not getting a wild card, but they weren't anyway.
Yes.
But they could still win this division. But don't try to pretend like this is not them selling. This guy's not going to play in the big leagues this year.
Correct. It's also them leveraging the market.
100%, which is smart.
Yes, it is. I texted this to you guys last night. This is actually the lead of the column I wrote on this last night. They could not have made this trade in April. Tampa would have hung up the phone.
Yeah.
They couldn't make this trade in May. They couldn't make it in June. Probably could have made this trade 2 weeks ago, quite frankly. This was a peak value, max value, sell at the top of the market. I likened it to, I built a house during the pandemic. They just paid cedar prices for builder's grade pine.
Right. That's right.
Remember when you tried to buy a piece of wood during the pandemic? It was $8 for a 2x4? Well, that was the Aaron Civale price. They just got $8 for a 2x4.
And it was the combination of he was pitching the best baseball of his career.
Yep.
And the market didn't have a lot of pitchers available.
Correct.
Plus, he's controllable because you get 3 postseason runs.
And there is value, and that part does sting.
Yes.
And I went kind of back and forth in the days leading up to this on Civale because he's only going to make $6 million next year.
Right.
And now, by comparison, I went, look, Martin Perez pitches for the Rangers. He's bounced around for a few different teams.
Yeah.
You probably never heard of him because he's a nobody. He's an average run-of-the-mill 500 pitcher. Had a really good year last year. All-star for the first time. I think he's like 31, 32. He signed a $20 million deal this summer, or last winter for this year. 1 year, $20 million.
And he's a Civale-esque pitcher.
He's a Civale. And he had earned $20 million. Civale's going to make $6 million. So that tells you how valuable pitching is and why it is still kind of hard to move on from him. Ultimately, though, Civale is a mid-rotation guy. He's a good number 3. He's a great number 4. He's a good number 3. He got pounded by the Yankees last year in the deciding Game 5. He has his flaws. There's no durability there. He's had a ton of injuries, and it's maddening because it's not surgery. It's not Tommy John. It's not a torn labrum. It's these little dings that have just really sort of derailed him.
And he's been wildly inconsistent from year to year, even from month to month at times. I agree with you. I think Aaron Civale's a 4. I think that's what he is. You use him if you have to in the playoffs. He's not a guy you want to rely on in the playoffs. He's a perfectly fine pitcher. Obviously, at the moment, he's pitching a lot better than that. But if you look at his whole career, I think his career ERA at this point is like 3.9. His
July was sensational. He had a 1.4, I think, ERA in July. His OPS made Miles Straw look like a cleanup hitter. Teams were, I think the opponent's OPS on him was like 440 this month.
This team reminds me.
That's fantastic.
This team reminds me of the Cavs a couple of years ago in the way that they had young guys like Garland and Mobley and Jared Allen was, just 1 year. He had only been there 1 year. They had this really young squad, right? And they made the play in, right? They lost to the Hawks, and they ended up not getting into the playoffs, right? anytime if I was managing a team, anytime that I had a bunch of young guys playing, I don't have a problem being a seller and making the playoffs, because I think that's a double whammy. Like, okay, well, great, we sold something off that we didn't think was really going to be worth much moving forward. Maybe he's inconsistent. In this case, Civale, who's been hurt as well. Now we could, get rid of him, kind of reload to see if we can find something we need. Plus, we get our young kids some experience, because guess what? They could go through a playoff run still, because
they still might make the playoffs. Yes, this doesn't help them get to the playoffs, but in the end, if I would have said to you, Jason, as you kind of alluded to this, but if I would have said to you at the beginning of the season, at July 31st, is Aaron Civale more likely to be traded for a top 50 prospect or designated for assignment? You would have without a doubt said designated for assignment.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Anybody would have. So the fact that you could get now, again, we don't know if this guy's going to pan out.
Right.
It's a lottery ticket.
I have to admit, when the trade was announced, my first thought was Jake Bauers. Like, that was my first thought. I mean, another left-handed hitting first baseman, top 50 prospect from the Rays, second-round pick. And he was an absolute disaster, and Yandy Diaz has flourished into an all-star with Tampa. Now, Manzardo, I can go back and show you all the scouting reports on Bauers, what a natural, sweet left-handed swing he had and everything else.
Same thing about this guy. Smart hitter,
And Manzardo's numbers are down. You can see there, hit 238. That's not great. But, Chris Antonetti on the call yesterday with the media said – the exit velocity was still there. Batting average on balls in play, he was just unlucky on some things. So some of the deeper numbers that they really look at were right in line with what they want.
Are we a little concerned about the white trash mustache?
They're coming back, man.
They're
coming back in style.
It's a little disturbing.
And it's
low weight bugs in that.
It's also worth it. And listen, I would rather him have an outfielder. I'd rather go get an outfielder than another first baseman type, especially a left-handed hitter. Like, you just traded Nolan Jones because Josh Naylor was playing first base, and
By the way, you know who the Reds' best hitter's been for the last 6 weeks? Not Ellie De La Cruz.
Will Benson.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. And
both those guys are playing really well.
So I guess I understand from the fans' perspective why you would be upset about this, because we've been talking. I've been writing about the glut on the 40-man roster for years, and they got to bundle these guys. Well, now they just traded away a valuable pitcher for another prospect.
Yeah.
So I get
Who's not on the 40-man roster.
Who's not on the 40-man. That's important. So really, they did clear a 40-man spot with this move. But and how many of these guys can you just keep adding to?
And that's the frustrating part.
Right.
They like, we've been saying this for 2 years. I feel like this is it. If you look at all these top prospects they have, the hitters, not the pitchers.
Yeah.
Valero, I don't know if he's ever going to play.
They all, I think, without exception, maybe except for Bo Naylor, have less value today than they did the last 2 off seasons.
I don't know about Freeman. Freeman probably held steady.
Okay, we'll say steady.
But Arias has dipped.
Arias' value's down.
I don't know about Rocchio. I mean, Rocchio's just had a cup of coffee.
Value's down if you're going to trade him.
Well, he's had injuries.
That doesn't mean they're not good or that they might not still draw a lot back.
I don't know if Valera's value is down or not, because he hasn't
been terrible in AAA.
Well, he's had a lot of injuries though.
I just find it. I'm frustrated that they're still like. That they've done nothing really to address this power.
Yeah.
And
Manzardo's not really, he's not a guy who's going to hit it out of the park consistently as of now.
Right.
But the one thing I wanted to add that's important, Josh Naylor has 2 years left of control.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to sign him long-term or not. The longer you wait, the harder it is to get these guys.
Right.
And,
how old is he?
How old is Josh?
I think he's younger than I think.
Is he 28? 28?
I think he's probably 25.
Yeah, 20. I think he's younger than I would think.
But he's down to 2 arbitration years. So if you don't come to terms with him, if you don't come to terms on an agreement, well, now you've got his replacement already lined up now in Manzardo, because there was really nobody.
He just turned 26 in June.
Okay.
Here's my thing with Naylor. With his body, I don't think he's going to age well.
Probably not, but he could age into a DH spot.
Right. I'm not giving him like a 7-year extension.
No.
But if I'm the Guardians, I'd like to lock him up through age 31.
Yeah.
How about 3 years, $60 million?
Well, 3 you're only buying out 1 year. You kind of have to go
3
4.
above what the 2.
Well then.
Okay, so 5 years.
Yeah.
$100 million.
if he would take that. I mean, he's really had a great year.
He has.
But the closer you get now to the end, the harder it is to get these guys.
Yeah, he's playing.
Would you do that if you're the Guardians? 5 for 100 on him? Is that too much?
It might be a little bit too. I want to look at the comps.
Still really can't hit lefties too well.
Yeah, I want to look at. He's a first baseman without a ton of power.
Yeah.
I think that might be a little high, but I want to look at the comps, and I haven't done that.
Andrew Benintendi a comp?
No. Benintendi's an outfielder had a little bit of speed at one point in his career.
But he doesn't have a ton of power.
Not a ton of power, but
he's never had a season as good as Naylor. I don't think. I mean, Naylor's really had a very nice season.
He's had a really good year.
Major kudos to him.
Yeah, and maybe now is the time to leverage that into a long-term deal if you're him.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go 4 years on him. You buy out his last 2 arbitration years and buy 2 years of free agency.
4 for 72.
I think that I could live with that.
Yeah.
Ain't he? What's the name? It might be Carlos Santana. Does Santana have more power than him?
I think it's in the same neck of the woods.
Yeah, I think Josh. Well, Carlos was a pretty good hitter in his day.
He was pretty good hitter when he was here, but he just didn't have power like that. He got on base.
It's not a bad comparison. It's not a bad comparison. By the way, how massive?
That'll be my homework assignment. I'll look up some comps on him.
How massive is Yordan Alvarez, by the way?
He's a big dude.
Oh my God, that guy's a monster.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
The Astros, I'm surprised they've been so quiet. Baltimore, what is Baltimore doing? They got to get some starting pitcher.
You know what's funny is Baltimore and Cleveland were like neck and neck last year. Remember their manager was up for manager of the year, and they had a great. They were like the Guardians. Those teams both came out of nowhere last year. They were right here.
Yeah.
Baltimore's gone here and Cleveland's gone here.
Kudos. Brandon Hyde was Joe Madden's bench coach when the Cubs won the World Series.
Yeah, he's done a terrific job.
He's done an amazing job because if you look at that Orioles team, how many people can name? How many average fans can name a pitcher on the Orioles? You could probably name some hitters. Can an average fan name a single pitcher?
Tyler Wells has had a great year in the rotation.
By the way, they just sent him to the minors.
Why? I didn't see that. Why?
Yes, he
pitch counts or pitching.
His peripheral numbers were not very good, and he was getting hit hard, and his walks had gone through the roof.
I totally missed that.
Right? He'd been pitching really well.
Their closer is dynamite.
Batista has been absolutely great, but he's a guy that most people haven't heard of before this year.
Right.
He wasn't a big name.
Right.
They need to add starting pitching. They got this great young lineup. By the way, the Orioles are going nowhere. As long as they can add a little pitching, because they've got this great young lineup, and their best prospect is still not there yet. Matt Holliday's son.
I know Jackson Holliday in the minors. They've got that Kjerstad. Am I pronounce his name?
Yeah.
He was a top 5 pick.
Yeah, and even guys like Cowser.
Cowser's up now.
What's his name? Haven't really gotten it going yet. But obviously Rushman's fantastic, and Henderson's
they
fantastic.
sucked for years. So but it seems like
it's finally come together.
They hit on some of their guys.
Yeah, I love seeing the Yankees in last place.
That's fun.
I love it.
Now the question for Baltimore is, are they going to spend?
They have to.
Well, they did back in the day. They did.
They got to, and they got to go trade for a pitcher. They should trade for Verlander.
I think it sounds like Verlander might be going back to Houston, according to what Ken
I like to
Rosenthal was
see the
reporting.
Orioles get aggressive. I like seeing new teams in the mix. But getting back to the Civale deal, and will the Guardians do something else here in the next 6
I think they
hours?
could. I think it's reasonable to think that they're going to do something else for, Zach wrote it last night, and it stands to reason. This is not a popular move in the clubhouse because you just traded their best pitcher and you gave them no help.
Right.
And you traded Ahmed Rosario, who was beloved in the clubhouse.
Right.
And for a guy with an ERA over 7. Now, he pitched well last night, but, Noah Syndergaard is shot.
No, the 2 trades they've made so far make them a worse baseball team this
right now.
year.
Yes.
Without a doubt. There's no debating that.
So you can see why the players would be upset with that.
As bad as the division is, as much as we talk about they're under 500, we could say that, they can't do anything in the playoffs. It's baseball.
Right.
If you make the playoffs, you never know. This is not the NFL or the NBA.
But I could also put $100 on 18 red.
I don't think that's equivalent.
It kind of is.
No, Jason, come on. You know that. Honestly, I know this team's not as good, but did that 2016 Indians team really have any business going to the World Series with the injuries they had?
Here's the point I would make.
Yeah.
How many, and Jay brought up the Braves being like under 500 in August and going on to win the World Series. How many teams that are 500 on August 1st go on to win the World Series?
Not many.
Not many. How many times can I put $100 on 18 and it hits? Not many.
Agreed.
How many times can somebody give us $10 for a super chat? in one show.
Go ahead.
And talk about baseball.
Hold on, G. First, before you read that, let's see what Earl has to say.
No. I was going to say, G, we got a time in the show for that. We got a time in the show for the super chat.
Well, I was looking at it. I was like, it was running out.
Hey, eyes up here, man. Get out of there.
I was running out. I was like, $10. We going to get to that.
Yeah.
I've now lost track.
Earl, you got to say something? You got to do something here?
Oh, no. I was just telling G, we got a time in the show. We're going to do the
All
PCC Air Force read, the super chats.
All
We got a
right, very
couple
good.
of them. So.
All right, here we go.
So, yeah, but I understand why you're right. It's a long shot. We all know it's a long shot. I expect if the Guardians do make the playoffs, which they still certainly can, because the Twins stink too, that they will lose in the first round. However, if you're a fan, and certainly if you're in that locker room, you don't want to give up because you still feel like you have a chance.
There is nothing. I've been in the queue for Rocket Mortgage or whatever they're calling it now for NBA Finals games, and I've heard the roof blow off that place. I'm telling you, there is nothing like Progressive Field for a playoff game. It is the most special environment in Cleveland because we haven't seen a Browns playoff game, but there is nothing like October baseball. I love it.
The energy is
but you have to play the odds. Like you can't go all in on an inside straight draw that has an 8% chance of hitting.
Agreed. And that's why I'm fine with what the Guardians have done.
Yeah.
If this kid better pan out.
Right.
But even if it doesn't, what are you going to do? I mean, you say you want to do some research on a comp for him. I feel like I need to do a research on the sell trades. And now a lot of these trades they've made in the last few years they've done some selling and some buying in the same year.
Right.
But I want to look at all their sell trades over the last few years and see how many have panned out a few years later.
Well, if the Clevenger trade I thought was going to be their best one, and it hasn't really been great. I mean, they've already moved on from Miller that they sent to Milwaukee. Quantrill's
Owen
been
Miller, yeah.
Owen Miller. Quantrill's been okay. Naylor's been good. Naylor's work that's been great.
Yeah.
Arias we still don't know, but that was like a 6-for-1.
Yeah.
And did they include someone else on? Well, Clevenger was the main piece in that.
Right.
So what's unique about this is it's a 1-for-1 because in the past they've gone the route of let's just get quantity.
Right.
And let's try and get one or two guys to hit out of this. In this one, it's a 1-for-1 straight up. It's going to be really easy to evaluate this trade in a couple years.
Yeah, I think we've seen that. The Max Scherzer trade, too, was also a 1-for-1.
Yeah.
It's interesting because teams have, in the past few years, been going for the depth of prospects instead of maybe one highly ranked one.
The Guardians do thrift shopping. My mom goes thrift shopping all the time. And I don't have the patience to do it, right? Because you go thrift shopping, you got to look through all of the stuff. You got to make sure there's not even damaged or any holes in it. And then you got to look at it and be like, okay, I need to piece this together with this little thing. And sometimes you can come out with a really nice little outfit for under like $10. You're like, wow, I can't beat this. Mm-hmm. But there's other people who are going to the same event as you, and they go right over to Macy's. They go over there. Oh, 2X, give me that one. That suit jacket, I wear 54 long. You got that? Throw that on. Those slacks, I know those slacks you wear because those are polos I always wear.
Yeah.
And guess what? You could be in and out of the store, back in your car, going home, and they got an outfit that they know they can wear. That's the thing. When you're shopping on a budget.
There is too much thrift shopping. That is no doubt about it.
Too much thrift.
Earl, go ahead.